This is the Toplofty Lounge. We're in for a smooth show for you today. Oh yeah, baby. In 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, baby. Yeah, here we go. In 11, 10, 9. Oh yeah, baby. Here we come. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Toplofty Lounge, episode 32. Conversations for the Elevated. Welcome, all my fellow snobs. I hope you had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Back with our first Toplofty Lounge of the year, 2025. And this week, we are talking about tools in sci-fi, in media. We're not talking about. We're trying to talk mainly about the cool fantasy stuff you see in movies, books, television shows, whatever. And maybe we'll talk a little bit about some real life stuff. Cam has some real life stuff, he says. We shall see. Speaking of Cam, let me introduce my co-host. Let's bring him in here. He is the hammer to my nail, the lightsaber to my sonic screwdriver, the Proton Pack to my jetpack. Say hello, Cam.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. I hope you had a good one. You had a good trip. Your secret. I mentioned on the show a while back on a different show that Cam was on secret assignment on last week.
Yep.
You want to tell us about your secret assignment? Or no?
I was going to explore contemporary space travel.
That's true. Yes. All right. Before we do, let me welcome everyone in the chat. Everybody who is. Michael is here. Death Angel Shadow is here. Weatherman is here. Weatherman, you were a little bit. We started the show late, but usually you're the first one in the chat. I was surprised to see someone else, but we still, that's why we were late. You're blaming me for being late. We had to wait for Weatherman. That's why, because he's got to be in the chat before the show starts. Otherwise, it's not a show. All right. So yeah, that's who we got in the chat. Welcome everybody. Cam, you were talking on our last show, but we had a little special Happy Science Fiction Day show. Yep. And Cam was on that, and he was telling a little bit about his little secret assignment. You want to talk a little bit about that today as well?
Sure.
Regular if you like it.
Briefly, yeah, that's fine. I had traveled after the between Christmas and New Year to the Tennessee area, and then as I got there, I discovered that the Huntsville NASA Space Center was much closer than I thought. I guess I forgot where it was, so I took a little trip down there and checked that out. Hadn't been there. I had been there. I don't remember the exact year, but I want to say like 1982, something like that. And so went back and visited. Some of the things were pretty much exactly the same as when I was a kid, and they had some new things as well. So it was a good time.
So the Huntsville NASA, what was it? It's called the Huntsville. What's the name of the place?
I'm trying to remember what the exact name, but it's the Space and Rocket Center. But hold on, let me see.
Huntsville Space and Rocket Center, something like that. Anyway, it's NASA. It's official NASA. There was some work going on there. That's where some of the Nazis probably worked because they didn't want to put them in the main.
Yes, that was where they did a lot of the rocket development. Apparently, I had forgotten that. I thought it was more of a training center, which it was, but it was also apparently where they Werner von Braun, had his main research team. I guess was in the same facility, or at Marshall Space Center.
And that's near where Death Angel Shadow lives, isn't it?
Yeah, I was in central Tennessee area, so I'm not sure. I forgot where DS lives.
Is he? He's not in the. I don't know which side. Did he tell us one time he was in? Is it the east or western side of Tennessee, or no? Maybe I might be confusing that with where the hurricane hit or part of it did.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know that much about Tennessee, but apparently there are 3 distinct sections, and they are legally distinct. So
But you didn't visit them, right?
no, I
No.
I was kind of I wasn't free.
Oh, you weren't free to. All
Yeah.
right. Well, you had a mission.
Yeah.
Knoxville and Chattanooga, he says. I'd have
Okay,
to look that
that's
up.
more to the east, right?
I'd have to look that up to see.
I don't know. I don't even know geography.
Gemonography. Who knows about that?
Because I'm, from somewhere far away.
Yeah, you're. Okay. Well, you can't. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's far away. Let's just say that.
I wouldn't even know. So.
Right.
Yeah.
I move around a lot. Can't get tied down.
The head of the feds, right?
Yeah. Well, no. I'm complete. Why would you say something like that? I am a completely legal and law-abiding citizen.
Oh, I guess it's just me then.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else happened in the last little bit? We're starting to. I don't even want to talk about. We don't talk about. I'm going to go into politics a little bit. In Canada here, the rumors are that our prime minister is going to retire again tomorrow.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, I mean, every couple weeks, couple months, or whatever, they're like, "Oh, he's going to like." It's just, I don't know. I think there's too many people hoping, or something. I don't know. It's just funny.
Okay, hold on. Stop the show right now. Jason in the chat. Well, I assume it's Jason. It could be Mrs. Boss, I suppose. Said that you're using it. I asked if you're using a different mic, and you sound like you're in a metal box, which I already pointed out.
You did point that
before
out.
the show. Yes.
How come it's like that? I'm using my same mic I've always used. It's a Yeti.
Well, let's ask another question. How do I sound?
You sound fine.
All right. Well, that's what's important.
Normal. What if I turn? I'm fooling around here. I got the gain. No. Did somebody mess with my mic? Is that any better? It's pretty close to.
Wait a minute. You're using like an expensive pro.
Yeti,
semi-pro mic.
Semi-pro, yeah.
And I'm using a crappy gamer headset.
Well,
right,
I'm in a big room.
Yes.
I'm in a big room, but I turned off the blowers from the bunker here,
Mm-hmm.
so there shouldn't be any,
Oh, you have a bunker as well?
Oh yeah, of course. I have to call the dugout because Jason calls his the bunker, but mine's the real bunker. We're tucked in the trees, dug into the dirt. I mean, I'm below ground.
He says you're talking to the wrong side of the mic.
Am I talking to the wrong side of the mic? How can I be?
Canadian. That's a good one. That made me laugh.
All right, hold on. I got the.
Okay, why don't you play around with your mic a little bit and let me talk to the chat here? How about that?
Okay, how's that?
Sounds just as the same.
Just the same? Because I think I flipped it to the 2 setting, which is supposed to be like the back and the front, so 2 people can talk into it.
Okay, hold on. Pipe down. Look at your settings. Hold on. Let me talk to Michael for a second. Michael was asking, in reference to the show actual topic, about what tools are not tools. Are vehicles that do more TARDIS and Andromeda Mach 5 tools? I would say for the purpose of, at least the way that I envisioned it, is I really wasn't thinking about things like vehicles. Spoiler, Snob had suggested a vehicle or 2 for this, and I would I don't think I think we could do that in a different show. Certainly if we were talking about broad sci-fi gadgetry and things like that, we could do it, but I was thinking more like analogous to a handheld device for accomplishing a particular job, not a conveyance or anything like that.
No, I'm not on a laptop. I'm on a PC. I haven't done a Windows update recently that I remember.
Weatherman, I wouldn't say that they have to be necessarily handheld, but that was kind of what I was angling for. But if let's say there's a jackhammer, a space jackhammer that worked.
All right, we're gonna have to sort this out, this mic thing offline.
I think we're gonna have to just suffer through your unprofessionalism.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, I never promised to be professional, right? I mean, it sounds fine to me, but of course.
Well, you're up in your own head.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll look at it again. I'm not on a laptop. The audio, I mean, it's the mic I use all the time. I haven't changed any settings. Nothing. It's all been plugged in the past, couple weeks, months, last month or so. I haven't touched anything. So, yeah, I don't know. Oh, wait, no, hold on. Does that sound better? Does that sound better?
It does sound like you're closer to the mic. That's for sure.
Okay. You know what? It might be.
That sounds a lot
maybe
better.
I have the wrong audio setting. Maybe you're hearing. Oh, yeah. It was set on my headset, and my headset thing was up.
So I see. You weren't even going through your mic. Okay. All right. Yeah, that sounds way better. Congratulations. You accidentally stumbled onto.
How the heck did that happen? I checked it before I went in. I'm like, on the right, and I tested the microphone, and it was working. It was coming up, but you know what? It was coming up low level, eh? Like the mic was, Anyway, all right.
Great. Apologize to our kind listeners. And then
all right, so we're on the proper mic now. All right, thanks. I appreciate you guys sorting me out, fixing me up.
He'll send a refund to every one of you that was harmed by that.
That's right. Everybody, you're going to get a refund for all the money you paid to listen for the first 11 minutes of the show where you didn't get the best sound quality. You'll get a refund on your monthly fees that you pay. All right. Okay, so shall we get to the topic?
Yeah, let's do it.
I think we shall. All right, hold on. Let me stop the camera here. Let's get on to the. All right, so what are we going to talk about? We want to talk about tools in science fiction media. And you want to define what tools we were kind of looking at, Cam?
Well, again, from my perspective, I was thinking about, the same thing you would think of if you said, oh, I'm going to go I need to get a tool to work on something, something in the toolbox or a daily tool that you carry with you. Spoiler, like, let's say I believe, okay, number one, I have always been enthralled by the utility belt idea, coming undoubtedly from Batman. The utility belt. It's like you got this cool stuff you carry with you, and you're ready for whatever comes up. Right. That is, has shaped my life, and I'm enthralled by it to this day, and I love everything about that.
Don't hold your breath waiting for that check. All right, go.
Right. So it's that kind of thing. The things you would carry on you or have in a kit for something. So that's kind of it. We were. Well, it's easier maybe to say what we were not thinking of. We weren't thinking of things that were exclusively weapons,
or mostly weapons.
Right. Although there, some of it might fall in there a little bit. And again, I don't think vehicles were what we were shooting for either.
No, I think that's separate. A vehicle is, of course, a tool to get from point A to point B. But generally speaking, when you say I'm going to go to the tool store to get a tool, you don't stop by the your local Ford dealership or whatever, right? So
right. Okay. So the chat is raring to go with this. Okay. So let's. They were talking about it the other day when we had our impromptu one as well. And Angel Shadow just mentioned the transporter. Yeah, that's a good question because it's not necessarily a vehicle, but it does, as the name implies, transports people around. So I would say that it's a device, I guess. I wouldn't necessarily call that a tool, but so that's. Again, I would be happy to talk about those kinds of things.
So we were kind of focused on, like, when we were discussing this, just let everybody know, we were talking, where we sort of drew, we were drawing the line or trying to draw the line. It was like a phaser, for example. Phaser is obviously a weapon, but in Star Trek, it's often used to, blow up rocks and, cut holes into things. So it's kind of,
Right. It has a lot of utility use. And,
lightsaber.
Right.
Same
thing. They use it for many things. And Weatherman talks about the vibro knife, which is very analogous to a lightsaber in a lot of ways. It's like a low rent lightsaber, at least in the Star Wars universe. But let's take that as an example. Well, in my opinion, the tool of humanity is what? I'll answer my own question. It's a knife, right? That is You know, I guess if you
I'd agree.
find
I'd agree. It's probably the most versatile tool that we've ever, used.
right. Hey, Steve, welcome. And incidentally, sidebar on this. At one point, one of the new doctor, the female doctor, I guess, on Doctor Who, said something disparaging about knives. And if I was a character in that show, and this genius, this brilliant alien says this to me, I'd say, I'll avoid swearing, but I'd say, what the f are you talking about? It is the most important tool in the development of humanity, and you're
For
disparaging it
sure.
for some political statement. You're an idiot. Get out of here. Anyway, that's why Doctor Who sucks now, but
Yeah.
amongst other reasons. But okay, so back to Weatherman. The question about a vibro knife is a tool or a weapon. I think a knife that isn't, I would say a sword is not a tool because it's specifically designed as a weapon. But a
Yeah.
knife it has many functions beyond. You can use it as a weapon,
Yeah.
but I'd say its primary use, well, at least equivalently, between tool and weapon, it's at least at most 50-50. And I guess you could say the same thing about an axe, right? Because an axe, a hatchet, those kinds of things have many applications that are not as a weapon. So
Yeah. I mean, knives are our first tool. I mean, even, technically not a knife, but I think probably our first tools were probably for
a flint knife or something.
Yeah, it was probably spears were probably the first things that we used to kill, right? And they were first,
certainly a very early weapon. Yeah.
Yeah,
A sharpened stick, not even a head on it.
They were probably sharpened sticks first, and then
right.
we started putting flint on them. Maybe rocks, maybe big rocks thrown on things were the first thing. But yeah, I mean, it's so versatile. I would, an axe to me is, it's kind of more of a tool than a weapon. Like its primary thing would be depending on the axe, but generally speaking, would be cutting trees and stuff.
Well, Jason just asked about Ash's chainsaw hand. I would say in that application, he used it as a weapon primarily, even though it, so anything could be turned, many things, I should say, could be turned into a weapon. You could turn a carpenter's hammer into a weapon. It's not meant to be that, but you could certainly use it to harm someone. A walking stick could be used as a weapon. Of course,
and of course, what is the most deadly weapon?
The human mind.
The human mind, of course. Yes, of course.
Very much so. Okay, so we're really thinking more, along a created, a sci-fi, obviously, tools. So why don't we just pick one off our list and get into that?
All right, which you want to start with?
Let's start with the one on the top of the list, in my opinion, which is the sonic screwdriver.
The sonic screwdriver. I mean, yeah, I'm, not as big a fan of Doctor Who as some others, but yes, the sonic screwdriver. Let's go with that one.
Okay, so I have to again admit, and from some of our fill-in shows, our deceased in the dugout or whatever, whatever it was. I love multi-tools. Again, this utility belt fascination of mine, and so
yes, you are
I'm a total multi-tool nerd. Again, Swiss Army knives are a multi-tool, with all kinds of functions. And the sonic screwdriver is like the sci-fi, pinnacle of that. That it can do all kinds of crazy things, and it's basically, just an open, an open plot device. For writers if they want it, because it could they could just say, oh yeah, it does this, and it's not really bound by any reality. So now some people might argue, oh, that makes for bad storytelling because they just you just pop out the sonic screwdriver and do whatever you want. But I think it's cool because you don't have to write the story to be like it's solved by that, but it can help you solve the thing. Just like if you needed to dig a hole, you don't necessarily need a shovel, but having a shovel is certainly helpful to accomplishing that.
Yeah. So I got some pictures up there of sonic screwdrivers. Now, there's a million sonic screwdrivers online, pictures you can get. I tried to get ones that were having to have to do with the show or, had been on the show perhaps, because I mean, let's face it. There's everybody and their dog are making sonic screwdrivers online, and they're posting up their creations. So you don't know if it's like a true one or not. But anyway, yeah. So these are just a couple from the show.
Yeah.
While we're talking.
Yeah, the first one I remember ever seeing was Tom Baker era, I think, where it looked more. I want to say it had like well, maybe it was a Mark III or Mark IV.
Yeah, can you pick it on the marks there in that?
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Those, I'm guessing that was it, because it looked like it had a little emitter head or something on it. And then I think the Mark V is like the David Tennant era one, or maybe I'm sorry, who was before Tennant? It was the Ninth Doctor.
If there's any Doctor Who experts in the chat, and you can recognize these, except for obviously the ones that are written with, whose they are pretty obvious. But if you know it and figure and just jump in the chat.
Yeah, I'm sure the Mark V one is where you started into the new Doctor Who's that came out in the early 2000s or whatever.
Yeah, who was the bald guy who was the first Doctor? He's kind of not bald, but he's his head. He did it only one season. His head was cut short, cut hit like a crew cut, really cut short. Before.
Oh yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of. That's the Ninth Doctor. God, I can't remember. Christopher Eccleston.
Oh, okay, I'm sure someone will.
Yeah, it might have been. I don't remember if he had one or not. He probably did though. So I'm guessing.
Oh yeah, they all had them.
That's probably the Mark V, and then Mark VI is probably Tennant, and then Mark VII with the green. That would have been what's his face? God, my mind is going.
Here, I'll take a look at this one here of like it's got the green dot on the front. This is a picture. I'm not sure if this is from the show or it's from a promo or something.
Yep.
I don't. That's the
green. Yeah.
The green thing. That's the maybe the Mark VII there.
Yeah.
With the little green.
That's 11th Doctor. Yep.
So.
And then where it went from there, I don't know, because I didn't watch the show. Because But anyway, so okay. So I was reading up on a little bit.
Michael says 6 and 7 are 10 and 11s. The Mark 6 and the Mark 7 are from the 10th and 11th Doctor.
Or, well, maybe not, because they dicked up the order of all this stuff incredibly bad. But, anyway, let's not go into that. But, okay, so what's cool about this is it does have all these functions. It's not, it's funny, because actually there was the one where the War Doctor was on. It had the 10th, 11th, and then, the other 10th Doctor, which was the War Doctor. He was the actual 10th Doctor, I guess. I'm sorry, 9th Doctor, I think, because he came before Eccleston. And they kind of inserted him in there retroactively. But the other two were like pulling there was a scene where they like pulled out their sonic screwdrivers and were pointing them, and he was like, "What are you doing? It's like, this isn't a weapon. This is a tool." He kind of like chastised them, But it's what's cool about it is it's the ultimate multi-tool, right? It could do all kinds of things. I remember there was one, I think it was during Tenet, where they were somewhere in the World War I era or something like that, or maybe World War II, and it's like, go to this setting and you can like repair broken barbed wire with it or something. So it's like, somehow meshing broken barbed wire back together. And it's like, to me, that's really cool. That's a cool sci-fi thing. Did it solve the plot? No, but it allowed this cool thing. And of course it, does things. The Baker uses to open locks a lot and things like that. On sci-fi doors and things.
Makes sense. It's a screwdriver, right?
Right. Well, it also does turn fasteners. So it is a screwdriver, literally. But it's like I said, it could do all these different things. I tried to find a list, like a comprehensive list, and I didn't find one that was particularly good. It was actually rather limited. I mean, it is extensive, but it wasn't. Like, here's, setting XYZ and all that, but still very cool. And to me, it's a neat writing device, that you could put something clever in there. And it's, I think I mentioned in the past, maybe when we kind of segued into superheroes, is one of the things that I thought was really cool when you have a superhero story like the Flash. It's like, oh, he has this power, and you come up with some interesting way to apply it, against a given villain or something like that. And so I think you have that similar kind of way to do that, where you could create some function of the tool that will help you in whatever you're doing. Just interesting. I was saying it doesn't work on wood. Yeah, they had that.
So
I
it's
guess
just
because
just like the original Green Lanterns, right?
Well, right. That's Alan Scott. Well, the one Green Lantern. Hey, PBR Street Gang, welcome.
Welcome, PBR. I have to say, I was a little bit, honestly, the sonic screwdriver is not my. I mean, I agree with you. I think it's cool. It's a cool multi-tool, but I always felt that it was a little bit cheap when it's like, just pull out the sonic screwdriver. It does everything,
Well, that is a danger.
And it's a little bit hokey for that. I always a little bit, lowered my estimation of it a little bit because of that.
Well, that's about good writing or bad writing, right? If you can bring something in to just make it interesting and cool, or if it's just your key to everything, your one and done solution to anything, that's bad.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is, Doctor Who's is originally a low budget show, so they're like, oh well, we can't, so they don't bother to define what it is, and so then they can say it does this and that and anything they want, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it works, works good for them.
Right. Okay, have we beat this one to death?
I think so.
All right. Why don't you pick one?
All right. Let's move on to, I think this is everyone's favorite. We got to talk about the Proton Pack. Everyone loves the Proton Pack.
Yes. It is. The Ghostbuster stuff is pretty cool. It's funny because I was visiting a friend yesterday, and they've got a lot of the, I guess Hasbro Pulse or one of the Hasbro things was putting out like various replicas of this, and they didn't have the pack, but they had like the trap and the wand for it and everything.
Yeah.
And so it's very cool. It's this kind of cobbled together,
nuclear accelerator
device.
on your back.
Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of, it's kind of a weapon, right? Because it's used to. I guess it's not used to kill ghosts, just capture them, blast them, and keep them in, captured while you get them into the trap. So I don't know. Is it a weapon? I mean, that's the primary thing it does.
It's kind of like a lasso, really. Is it interacts with ectoplasm or whatever. I don't remember the exact explanation behind it, but they do use it as a weapon against the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and
across the streams, and when they're shooting it around, like it's certainly taking the paint off the walls and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it does do damage. That's for sure.
You wouldn't want to be caught in the flesh to be caught in the beam. I'm sure it would cook you up pretty good.
Right. But, and along with this, of course, you have the trap, which it all kind of works together. So interestingly enough, they came up. Is this sci-fi? Is Ghostbusters sci-fi?
Yeah, I'd say so.
I'd say
there's science in it.
It is not. That is not our criteria that we use on this show, my friend. If I need to remind you, it is one part of it.
Okay.
You're wrong.
Hold on.
Starting off 2025, weak as can be. Terrible.
All right, let me. I have the. I put the Venn diagram in here somewhere. Where the heck did it go? I'm trying to keep. Oh, it's right at the top, of course. Let's do the. Let's put the Venn diagram up.
Okay, there you go. Okay, technology impact on story. Yes, certainly.
Yes,
it does it. Futuristic element relative to humanity.
It's primarily a now story, right?
Yes,
I guess
it's not futuristic. It is science that's not exactly normal. Our device is not normal. But I'd say it's very weak on that element. And speculative nature about humanity, no.
Not really. It's a comedy.
All right. So once again, you're wrong, and I'm right.
2 out of 3 isn't bad though.
1.1 out of 3.
Like no. 1.5.
at best.
One of
Anyway, back to the topic. Here we go. Okay, so what else you got to say about this?
I mean, we're kids, we're growing up, we're 12, 13 years old, and the movie comes out. We're like, this is totally cool. They're running around with, everybody wants to be, carry stuff on their back like they're in the army. People are loving it. You pull it off, it's a nuclear accelerator, it fires out a nice orange beam that just, sparkles around left and right and, blows up anything it hits. I mean, what's not to like?
Yeah, I love it's kind of a little bit of a modern modernist steampunk. The thing is like cobbled together with loose wires on it and all this stuff. It's clearly not a refined, product. It's, an invention, right? So
Yeah.
I like that too. That's pretty cool.
And there's tons of them online too, where people are making their own and, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I don't like that.
Weatherman brings up one of the things that was on your list. Jumping a little bit here to Mr. Fusion.
Mr. Fusion, yeah, it was one on our list, but it didn't make the final cut.
Yeah, and I think, again, it's it's a power source for a vehicle. So I'd say it's a subset of a vehicle. While cool, not exactly what we're angling for here.
It was one of the ones that I did think. I mean, Mr. Fusion could have other uses, but other uses. It's a power source. It could power anything. I mean, that's all the only thing it could be used for. But yeah, I had it on my list, but Cam said no. So
this does.
It was well possible.
The Proton Pack here does relate to Weatherman. I think was asking earlier about whether it has to be handheld, and so this I think does qualify as a tool from what we're talking about, and clearly isn't really handheld. So there you go.
Tool has to be handheld. Is that what you're suggesting?
And well, that was one of the questions he had. Is in our criteria for what we're talking about here. So
yeah, we didn't get that specific.
Yeah,
but I mean, it's handheld. You got to carry the power source on its back.
And you're right, Weatherman. It could, as Snob did mention as well, it could have been used for something. Mr. Fusion could be used for something else, but in that case, it was the power source for the car.
Could use Mr. Fusion to power your Proton Pack, right?
Oh, you know what? You could probably use a Proton Pack to power the DeLorean too. Yeah,
that would be. It's a great crossover. This is the picture that I think most people use to when they're making their, again, just like the Sonic screwdriver. There are a million Proton Packs that people make online. They're all everybody's going with them.
Now that we're talking about it, we should probably just schedule a sci-fi vehicles episode in here. Although that could get really extensive. So maybe we'll have to categorize that a little bit because thinking about the Ecto 1, which is one of the coolest vehicles. Not sci-fi
cool
necessarily,
car, but it's not really. I mean, it's just it's got a couple things attached to it, and it's not really. It's just a normal car with a bunch of Ghostbuster stuff in it, isn't it?
No, I think there's some other devices on it, but anyway, we don't need to get in that right now.
All right. Shall I pull up? I'm going to pull up the next one, which is probably not as interesting, but I like it because I wish I had one and I would use it on myself all the time. But it is the classic Men in Black Neuralizer. My wife has something like this, but she doesn't use it for racing binds.
Yeah, very specific tool here. But a very plot devicey tool also. That basically,
but pretty cool.
Yeah, it erases your memory, your short-term memory.
Well, long-term memory too, right?
Oh, I guess that's true. They could set it to go back quite some time.
So yeah, the Neuralizer from Men in Black. I mean, very important to the plot. I mean, it's not really. I mean, to be honest, it is the most important tool in that for that show, right? Like, there's nothing else. This is a little bit better pick of it. There's nothing really. I mean, this is kind of the driving thing for the Men in Black, being able to erase people's minds, right? Like the various space guns they have. I mean, the car. None of that is as important as the ability to erase people's minds. Otherwise, their whole reason to exist, they wouldn't exist. They wouldn't be able to do what they do. So from a story perspective, it is it's key.
Mm-hmm. All important here, if we could take a side here, is our chat, our beloved chat. And Weatherman asked a question about hoverboard. Is it a vehicle? I would say yes. What do you think, Snob?
I mean, yeah, it's a vehicle. I mean, it's a skateboard. A skateboard is a vehicle. Hoverboard's just a hovering skateboard. It's a vehicle. I mean, it's not as complicated as a car or a bike. It's lower on the, but skis. Are skis a vehicle? They're a way of
conveyance.
Skateboard is kind of the same sort of thing.
But suffice to say, we would put that in the vehicle category for our purposes. And PBR Street Gang says, would you consider Batman to be in the realm of science fiction? He has cool tech. Well, by our Venn diagram, it's tech. It does somewhat drive the plot, but I don't think Batman would really be qualified as science fiction. There probably have been very science fiction-y stories for Batman, and we were talking about this kind of offline, I think, or maybe on the sci-fi show the other day about superheroes in general. If it's sci-fi, and it kind of bridges the gap a little bit. It certainly has one foot in sci-fi stuff. Well, that's true. Jason says Batman's best friend is an alien from another planet. That's true. True.
Oh, that's not what Lego Batman says. He says they're enemies.
That's true.
They're not friends.
That's right. Who's your greatest enemy? Superman.
Superman's not your enemy.
Lego Batman might be the best Batman.
I think so. But so the thing is, so there's a debate whether superheroes are science fiction, and a lot of people would say yes, they are, because I mean, some of them have basis in magic and all kinds of weird stuff, but a lot of them have basis in science, like Iron Man. So
yeah,
they definitely go into that line, right?
Superhero is kind of an umbrella that covers different genres, because again, Batman, even though he had gadgets, it's more of a crime story, or the Punisher, for example, is a crime genre. But then you've got Superman that has been very cosmic stuff, and I think in our show the other day, Green Girl was in the chat and brought up, which I guess we could segue into here, about Green Lantern's power ring, if that is a sci-fi tool. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, we didn't talk about that. Just before we do go to that, I'm just going to say that, look, our diagram here is very, we're coming at this from a snob perspective. So the diagram is really cutting out, the Venn diagram is cutting out a lot more science fiction than normals would agree with, right? Like a lot of people would say, well, if it's got any, futuristic sciencey thing in it, then it's science fiction, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we have, that's only one element of these three elements, and it's got to have all three. I mean, I kind of let it go a little bit. If it's kind of, has part of, if it's got 2.5 maybe, or one of them is weak, I usually let it go myself. But yeah, we're coming at it from a very, hardcore definition of science fiction. So power rings. Now, they first appear like magic, but they're really, very advanced technology. So I'd say, they are. That's science. It's science. It's obviously science, right?
The Earth One, which is the Hal Jordan, Silver Age Green Lantern, I think is, I think they do define that as science. It is, it might also be qualified as a weapon. It's certainly a weapon and tool combination. But it's a created technological item. That it's super science. It's wild science. But it's
Arthur C. Clarke defined, he said any science, science that's far advanced enough would be akin to be magic to us, right?
Yes,
and that's what the power ring is.
Now, interestingly enough,
but it's science.
The Golden Age Earth 2 Green Lantern, at least in the era of Crisis on Infinite Earths, mid 80s, was magic, and I think it still is. So it was different, and it was magical. So, different Earth, different version.
But then, does magic really exist, or is magic just science that we don't understand, right?
Well, that's a whole nother topic. But
yeah, I mean, that's the problem with superheroes is that they go over everything. You've got fantasy, you've got magic, you've got occult, you got science, you got you just throw anything in there. Cowboy style heroes, anything you want.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. So
which makes it fun.
Modern, current Earth 1 Green Lantern, yes, is a sci-fi tool, and again, the multi-tool that blows away any other, because you could literally do anything with it that your will can create. Weatherman asking about the Pip-Boy. Let's hold that for 1 second, because the Pip-Boy is similar in a lot of ways to I'm not an expert on the Pip-Boy from the Fallout series, but very similar to the Star Trek Tricorder, perhaps.
Oh, and is that a segue?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Where's my?
We're kind of all over the board with this episode because it's loose and there's a lot of ground to cover. But Star Trek Tricorder, I will just chat about while Snob tries to come up with something.
While I work the
work behind the scenes magic.
Get the camera. There you go. I got to do my own producing back here. Right
there, you go. There's Spock with the classic
tricorder,
TOS tricorder. You can see the little screen on there. It's basically tricorder is a recording, analysis, and sensor device, and storage device. So can take various readings of all kinds of things. And again, this becomes one of those things. It's like, yeah, right, exactly. Kind of a plot device helper. But very cool. And there's different types of them. The other major type is, this is the science tricorder, he uses, and there's also the medical tricorder.
So yeah, I got a medical. I mean, there's a million of them. I pulled the medical tricorder. This is the TNG one, right?
Right. There you go with Beverly.
I think it's Beverly's hand. So
yeah,
it's authentic.
Right. So the difference here is you can see at the top there's a line, and there's probably another third of it or whatever. That's where it has a diagnostic wand that comes out of there, or you could use it without taking the wand out. But a lot of times, the doctor would take it out and kind of use it as a scan, as opposed to running the whole device. So you could look at the device while scanning different parts. But the science one basically looks like the bottom, 3/4 of this. Pretty cool. They had a couple different variations of this in the TNG era.
Yeah, and there was a ton of them online as well, pictures I could have picked from. But a lot of it is, it's a lot of people making their own. So how authentic is it? I wanted to keep with the more authentic.
I had a pretty cool Playmates Toys used to have a Star Trek line. They're the prop size line, and they had a pretty cool tricorder that had light and sound and everything. It was a decent low cost replica.
Yeah, there's a ton of them that are still out there for
sale. There was one really cool, someone made a real high quality original series tricorder that had some actual functions. It did, it did things, and had
like Spock's one.
Yeah, and it had memory discs, that actually it did different things when you put them in and all that. It was pretty neat. Jason said it's a Feinberger. Is that what it's called? The plot device? Is that what I don't know. I've not heard that term before.
Oh, look at this. Weatherman, you're getting into the that's a cool
I'm not familiar with that.
Oh, I read the 3 novels and I watched the show Altered Carbon. I thought it was good. I wish there had been more of it. Yeah, so just a cortical stack is so in the Altered Carbon universe, what happens is that everybody's got a basically sort of the base of your neck right, base of your skull, you have there's a disc that they you can insert, and it basically it records everything about your your personality, your mind. It's a way of having your mind out. So so the rich, they pull out, if you die, they just pull out you can pull your stack out, put it in a different body.
Huh.
So it's it's quite involved. So there's a lot of you can still be killed by destroying your stack, which is a big no. But they put people in other bodies, and all kinds of stuff goes on. It's a great tool for a story, because you can use different actors every season and have use the same character, which is part of what they do. But the main character is in the body of this big hulking white guy, but he's actually like a small sort of Asian guy in his real body. But it was a good show. I recommend it. I enjoyed books, and I liked the show too. It was pretty good.
Huh.
But yeah, is a cortical stack a tool? I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a way of keeping your memory. I mean, there's been other similar things in science fiction that people have done that before. I mean, it's similar to anything where you could imprint your mind onto someone else's mind, or into a robotic body or anything. That's a very similar thing. It's not like a wild science fiction idea. The way they did it was a little bit different, but yeah. Well, Weatherman liked the show too. You saw it too. Yeah. I mean, is it a tool? I don't know. Would you call that a tool? I mean, it's a way of, recording your memories, kind of like a tricorder, but, very limited to what it does.
I'd say it's a very specific tool type of device. Could fall into a tool, but
I don't know. It's not really a tool. Like, it's not like, you can, you open a door with it. It's more of a thing that, it's important in the story. But, I mean, well, it records things in your mind like a camera records. Is a camera a tool? I mean, technically, I guess a camera is a tool, right? You take pictures with it, movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I guess maybe maybe it qualifies.
All right. Okay, so tricorder. Here's the thing about. Well, okay, let's talk about Star Trek handheld devices. So you got the tricorder is the one that I think is the most tool-like. Even though it's really an information device more than anything, it doesn't turn fasteners, it doesn't hammer nails, it doesn't cut things, it doesn't do any of those kinds of tool functions, but it is a sensor tool. It's a analytical tool, basically like a hand computer in a lot of ways.
But I thought that was important, because part of what I think that Star Trek is trying to push in the future is that the whole getting your hands dirty or having to do things, like when McCoy's always talking about they cut people open to do stuff to them, like they're barbarians, right?
Uh-huh.
So I mean, the whole scanning things and getting information non-invasively, I think, is part of all that. So I think that is important to the show and the whole philosophy of the show.
Yeah, and
so it's still, like, I agree, it doesn't do things like turn things, but I think in the context of the show, it's a tool for sure, because they're kind of getting away from all this, hey, you got to hit something with a hammer or twist it.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting you mentioned that, because in thinking about this, Star Trek really, it's like they kind of solve problems that, like you say, not hands-on. It's like, okay, they pull out the tricorder and they go, woo, 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 okay, oh yeah, it's this or that, and then it's like, okay, and then somehow they kind of get to a solution. It's like,
but the funny thing is, like you kind of, like, medical stuff, I'm like, okay, I can buy that, right? But if you even look at this stuff, they even do that, like Scotty and the engineers. They're like, I have to realign the dilithium matrix. They take out a tool, it makes a whirly noise, and they sort of, run it over it to realign everything or something, right? Like they even then, like, you don't see as much, even the engineers where you think you'd be going, here, give me my wrench and let me twist this and take this off. They
exactly.
don't. I mean, I'm not saying they never do it, but they still, it's even like, oh, it's kind of scanny, you know?
Right. Yeah. In Deep Space Nine, Chief O'Brien is, the guy that uses tools quite a lot. But you're right. It's usually some kind of flashlight, a probe of some sort, with a little light, and they're, kind of pointing it and waving it at things. And
Yeah.
maybe that's part of their writer's Bible or something. It's like, yeah, to make it futuristic.
Yeah.
We're not going to be doing those kinds of things.
Yeah. The whole idea that, everything is less mechanical. You don't
Mhm.
have to be turning bolts so much. And it's more about,
Yeah.
I don't know, making electrons go in a certain way or
Well,
aligned somehow,
okay. Let's
which
get
is kind of interesting.
Well, yeah, it is, and I guess it works. I mean, there was I don't know if you remember the TNG episode, the last one where Wesley was on it and as a regular. He him and Picard and this other guy, for some stupid reason, they were going on this other guy's ship, and they crash on like a desert planet, and then there's this thing where the water is behind this force field or something, and Wesley's literally uses the tricorder to somehow gain access to this. It's like, well, what is it doing? Is it what's the tricorder doing to cause that to happen?
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those real stretchy things, but it's also very within the realm of what Star Trek does.
Yeah, it seems that it can detect all sorts of various, like heart rate, blood, how much oxygen is in the air.
Oh yeah,
but
it
it
provides.
can also send out some sort of beams that could trick,
Well,
things.
it can certainly send out signals, right?
Yeah,
Different frequencies, things. But the other part of that, yeah, Death Angels, Wesley was a plot device. Yes, in many ways, true.
Yeah, we don't.
Let's not talk about Wesley.
Nobody likes Wesley.
But in combination with the tricorder, often it's like, oh, blah, 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 blah. Okay, then they pull out the phaser, which is a weapon, right? But it's like, okay, boop, 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 set it to whatever frequency, and you bathe this thing in a certain radiation out of your phaser, which can be tuned and all these different things, and then they solve a problem, right? So it's kind of, that weapon, it does become a tool in many, many instances. In the show, so they really just have this kind of triumvirate of or triad, whatever you want to call it, these three things, the communicator, the tricorder, and the phaser that they then use in various ways to solve all kinds of problems.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting if you have a weapon that puts out a certain amount of energy, and depending on how much energy that is, that will either stun you, I don't know, make your hair stand up a little bit, stun you, or kill you, or actually disintegrate you. I mean, that's kind of
true. I did make
out of the weapon area into more, more complex.
Right. I made a few notes on it. They use, in original series, they used it to heat up rocks of a certain type that they analyzed.
To keep them warm.
Right. To
keep them warm.
Radiate and keep them warm. Which is really just transferring the energy from the phaser to a different, to a heat form. Obviously, they use it for cutting through things all the time. But they've also used it for things like in Deep Space Nine, when the changelings were running around, they used it as, like, I remember that, they used phaser rifles or whatever on this wide dispersion beam to, use certain frequencies that cause the changelings to, like, revert to their normal form. So it's like this scanning kind of thing, or, a beam that would affect them in something less than a direct
detect disguise beam.
Yeah, kind of. So, and I'm sure there are many other instances of ways they've used them. So, there you go. So I would say that the phaser does qualify in our list here.
All right. I'm putting up everyone's saying trashing Wesley Crusher because I
perfectly acceptable and expected.
Though I did enjoy I think was it, I can't remember if it's season 6 or 7, where he goes to the academy and he comes back and he's done a bad thing.
Yeah. The first duty is the name of the episode.
That was some good, a good use of his character.
Yeah.
And they didn't do so bad at the end of the show, trying to, getting rid of him by saying, "Oh, he's this special guy," and he goes off, and I'm like, all right. But yeah.
Okay, so the Pit Boy was the other thing.
We've also got one last.
Okay. Well,
but go ahead.
Just Weatherman asked about the Pit Boy, and I related it to the tricorder. what I know about the Pip-Boy from playing a little bit of Fallout was it is basically a wrist-mounted device that had, communications and information. It had like a library function, encyclopedia, where you could look up all kinds of different things. And in the game, it functioned to provide you information and like that. Now, it might have a lot of other functions that I'm not remembering. But anyway, yeah. Jason also brings up there, in that episode you were talking about, Nick Locarno was the character, the senior in there, who then again was basically the same character as Tom Paris, who ended up in Voyager, and the same actor.
Yeah, wasn't the same actor.
Yeah, it was one. So there was some weird legal thing, I think, with that, why they couldn't use that character or something, and so they just kind of created another character that was essentially the same.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. Okay. So okay. Well, you said you had another one.
Well, I had our last one. All right, let's pull it out. What could it be? The replicator.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah, and this is the other thing. It's like, oh, we need something. Boom, you push a button and a description, and there you have it. No building ever really happens. I guess they exchange a few parts. They will shift some parts around or click a few things together. But that's about it. Hey, it's a Trap Productions.
Hey, it's a Trap. Welcome.
So the replicator, bridges a lot of that gap, right? It's basically, they use it most often for food and drink, but also for creating parts and devices. And at one point, I think in Deep Space Nine, they talk about industrial replicators, indicating that it's basically like a manufacturing facility, all in itself.
Now,
so
I always assumed that, you have a replicator. Why not just make a really big one and just replicate a whole ship, right? But I always assumed that it was super energy intensive, so they wouldn't use it for, big things. It was much more efficient with smaller items. And instead of just going, hey, make me a spaceship with all these complicated parts, it would have to have, you could make some complicated things with it. I'm sure they made lamps and whatever, but you couldn't make a super complicated. You had to do the parts somehow, or there's some reason for that. Because otherwise a replicator is just like, well, we don't need to do anything anymore, right? Why have engineers just replicate a new one?
Right. Yeah, you could certainly replicate a fighter size ship or a shuttle or something, right? It would probably have capacity to do that.
But we don't usually see them doing that.
Yeah, I don't think they do. So I'm sure there is an explanation for that somewhere, but we do know that they have industrial replicators that presumably could at least make parts.
Yeah.
But maybe they can't make certain parts, maybe things like isolinear chips or something isn't, it's just not something they can easily make. They could make, a bulky piece of metal or something that would be a casting in today's technology.
Right.
And they could do that. But there's also stuff in there about between the transporter, because it's related to transporter technology, right?
Yeah, I would take it akin to the replicator. I kind of see it as from Terminator 2, where what could liquid metal? What can he do? Oh, stabbing weapons and stuff, not complicated things like bombs, right? So I kind of take that as sort of the same way. Yeah, Weatherman says might not be able to make complex components. So I kind of see
that. And there is a difference in the resolution too. If you read as I recall from my days of reading deeply into Star Trek lore, is the like the transporters are replicating a human and it has to be to the quantum level essentially, whereas you're making mashed potatoes, well, it's really just starch. It's kind of thing.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, probably can't replicate dilithium. Yeah,
I think probably Death Angel shot. That's the labor union. That's probably the real reason.
That's gotta be it.
It's usually the real reason. Yeah. So to be honest, let's be honest. But Star Trek, right? the original series was written in they didn't have a lot of money. I mean, well, they spent a lot of money for that time and that show, but they try to find a way to, the replicator, the transporters are just a way to do things and save money on, for the production of the show. We can just go, oh, the actors are now in space. Okay, now they're on the planet. So we're kind of ignoring that.
We do know that from Voyager, along the lines of what you said, is they mentioned that the replicators do take so much power that because they knew they had limited resources, remember they had we're going to make stuff in the kitchen instead of using replicators for food service in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I thought it was to give the character of Neelix something to do.
It was, but that was their reasoning, though.
Yeah, I mean, you could see that if your ship is out in the middle of nowhere, you can't really, how easy is it to? I mean, mining dilithium must be a very complicated process, right? Like it's not like you just go and pick it up off the ground or something, right?
Right.
So it'd be hard for them to stop and do that.
Yeah, Jason's mentioning about the transporters because they didn't have the shuttlecraft. Yeah. And then we have some salty talk about the holodecks there also. Better left unsaid. Riker, my God, that guy.
Yeah, so the the holodeck is always, I mean, Lower Decks makes fun of that, right? Mm-hmm. They talk about all the ensigns have to go and clean the holodecks. Oh, I hate to clean it after so and so's been in there, but I mean, like, it is pretty bad. Like, it's gonna be, like, let's face it. I mean, maybe 23rd century humans are a little bit more advanced than us, and they shouldn't be doing that kind of thing. But if we had one now, it would be bad. Oh, okay. Go ahead. Is that you know what? I forgot to put. Oh, maybe we can do it right here, real quick. I had one more. Worf is the worst offender because of all the blood. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. There was one other one I wanted to mention. I forgot to. Let me just put the image in here.
Okay. As you're doing that, Weatherman. Yeah, the dilithium is to focus the energy in the warp reactor, as I recall.
Okay, so the last one that I had was so this is from, this is from Ready Player One, and I wanted to mention this, that the haptic suit. I thought this was interesting and wanted to mention this one because I think we're close to having. I mean, we have this kind of thing already, right? I mean, if you look back into what was it, Nintendo that had the glove, which wasn't very worked out very well, but that's your first try at this type of thing. I think we're not too far away from a completely integrated with the various VR goggles that are out there. I mean, not too many people are using them, but there's still fair use of them on Steam with some people. And I think that I don't know if you saw this. It was last year. This guy was he at Disney? He invented the floor that you walk on and you don't move anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically perfect for any type of these VR sets where you would just you'd want to walk on in a certain way and without going anywhere, and it works very well. And I saw it, and it seems like fairly once they get it going, be fairly cheap to manufacture. And most things, it's manufacturing is about can you do it for cheap enough, right? Because you can do many things, but is it cheap enough that you can get it out to everybody? That's the sort of the big thing. And so I think we're going to see these. We're going to see the VR. We already have the VR headsets, of course. We're going to see these floor things come out 5 to 10 years probably, and then I think that you will start to see more and more of the suits. And I was in my research doing around, they do seem to have some haptic suits already, but they're super expensive. nobody really buys them, and I don't think there's a lot of software that would use them, but they do have them, and I'm sure they're nowhere near as good as the one on Ready Player One, but it's a start. So I think we'll be seeing these in 20 or less, maybe 20 to 50 years. Who knows?
Yep.
Yeah, I can see. I've never tried VR to myself. Well, at least not in this time frame.
Well,
but,
I did it at Disney.
up.
Actually, boy, it was probably going on 10 years ago. They had a Star Wars VR thing that I did. It was really kind of pretty cool. And it had, I mean, it wasn't reacting. I mean, the gloves and where your hands were doing things, and you had a rifle
Delay.
and all that. I'm sorry, what?
Was there a delay, like bad delay when you're using it?
A little bit. There was a little bit, but not too bad. But the other thing they had was you were wearing a vest, so when you were getting shot or whatever, you were supposed to be like a stormtrooper or disguised as a stormtrooper. And when you're getting shot, the vest would have a little air pocket or something, so you could feel it. Yeah.
So they already had that. That's 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That's
rudimentary version, but yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. All right. So, okay. That's pretty much all the things we wanted to cover. They just got, there's a couple other things. Well, the last thing I want to do before we end the show is, of course, I want to premiere our trailer for our new Babylon 5 retrospective, which is coming up next week. Is going to be the first episode, and then we're going to go on Wednesdays. So we're going to do that at the very end of the show. So stay tuned for that. Did you want to, Cam, did you want to talk about, we pretty much, unless anyone has any other sci-fi tools, we're past our hour mark that we want to talk about. Did you want to talk about some real tools?
Yeah, I'll do it extremely briefly. I think it's kind of hard to deny that the modern mobile phone is a long way towards some of these things. It's tricorder and communication device. Essentially, I mean it's lacking certain sensors, right? But they're getting more and more advanced. They could add more sensors into these things easily, and there are like people that are essentially making medical tricorders. So I mean we're carrying around a version of this every day. But a few other things again.
Yeah. Are you talking about those? Well, for example, those guys that go around, they've got you put your two fingers on it. It tells you if you have arrhythmia in your heart or something like that.
Well, yeah, right. I mean, or our Apple Watches and whatever, do.
Yeah, that's true.
A variety kinds of medical diagnostics, and it these things are all possible right now. But we're kind of carrying a low rent version of those around with us every day. But I would carry all these sci-fi devices if they existed, but I'll take what I can get. So again, things like multi-tools. Some flashlights today they look like a sci-fi thing, so you could put it in a sci-fi movie and no one would bat an eye, in thinking it didn't fit. There's a few tools that are very, not a conventional multi-tool like, the plier types like a Leatherman or something, but these other tools that have, all the different bits and the handles, and they could attach to different things. And, so there's stuff like that that's just kind of fun and, really appeals to me. But one other thing that I thought is really starting to get to this point of, that if you saw it in a sci-fi movie in the 70s, you'd be like, wow, that's really cool, yeah. Jason mentions personal surveillance devices. Yes, of course, that is their primary purpose, all of our phones. But it's the USB connectivity is getting to be one of these things where, we're charging from them. We're using it for data transfer. And it's not just, computer charging. Again, flashlights are being charged off of that. I have a fan that's USB charge, all kinds of different devices now. I have a electric razor that's charged off USB. All these things it's like we're really kind of coming into something that is getting to be very universal in terms of that. And so it's, again, if you showed me that in 1970, it would blow my mind, right? It's like, what do you mean I'm plugging this, this thing into this, thing I carry around in my hand? So it's, I don't know. That to me, it kind of falls into this category. Just, I mean, the ubiquitous USB connector.
That's a good point.
And then, like I said, then just the multi-tool. Again, a Swiss Army knife is very not sci-fi. It's very mechanical, but it's got all these cool functions in it. So it's like a version of the sonic screwdriver, essentially.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, except it doesn't glow and have a little funny noise.
Wrong. Some of them do glow.
Oh, do they? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have ones with flashlights in them. There have been ones that had lighters in them. There are ones that have clocks and altimeters and thermometers. So it gets fairly extensive.
So you're getting into sensors already there with that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's well, you know what? There's another thing. There's various multimeter, like an electrical multimeter. There's some of these things
Mhm.
they're pretty sci-fi. I mean, and again, some of them are like these little tiny things. It's like like a big fat marker pen, but you could plug in the things and be doing all the different, more advanced multimeter functions. Some of them have temperature stuff with them, and it's.
I've got a basic one. I don't have any of that stuff.
Yeah, well, you're not, cool handyman.
I'm not cool fancy. Yeah.
Right. Anyway, I just thought I'd mention a few of those things that these things are kind of on the horizon in a few ways.
Yeah, and these things are. I mean, they come out. A lot of this technology just sort of jumps out at us, right? Like all of a sudden, you're. I mean, just if you think back, nobody had a fax machine and knew what it was, and all of a sudden, boom, they're everywhere. Nobody had a microwave, and then boom, they come out and they drop in price, and then next thing you know, almost everybody's got one. And I think it's just going to be the same with some of this, some of the VR stuff, and a lot of it has to do with what you're mentioning about universality of charging and that kind of thing. All of a sudden, it'll just be people know about these things and they exist, and all of a sudden, everybody will have to have one, right? Cell phones.
Yeah, well,
nobody had a cell phone before smartphones, and it's like 10 years later, everybody has one. 12-year-old kids have one.
Right. And well, we didn't even mention 3D printing, which is like a rudimentary replicator, right? I mean, you could take something, it's like, oh, I have this part, and you could send that over a wireless transmission through Elon's little, Starlink, and someone else with a device can make that part, on the other side of the world.
I actually saw, I don't know, it was a post on X or something like that today, where the guy says, his wife's got this fancy, 6-burner fancy gas range, and one of the little knobs came off and broke, and they wanted the Braun or whoever made it wanted $35 for it. He said, I printed one for 10 cents in my with my 3D printer. Now, of course, someone was posting this, and the wife was saying, hey, I should divorce my husband for this because, the knob was black when he pre-printed it, and it's black, and it's not silver with, the fancy, but you can imagine the guy, $35 for that. I can print it for 10 cents. Screw them. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So that's it. We've got all of our. We looked at our tools. Lots more to do, but these are the main ones we thought. Before we go, we're gonna show the trailer. So this is our teaser trailer. I got to put it out. I'll put it on my YouTube channel up after this. So this is the teaser for our Babylon 5 show. We're starting next Sunday. We're going to do the first episode of the show, which will be episode 0 of Babylon 5, which is called The Gathering. It's
our pilot episode for their pilot episode.
Is it the pilot? I thought the first one was the pilot episode, but no,
I'd call it a pilot.
It's called The Gathering. I haven't seen it yet because I started watching and they didn't have that. It wasn't on the.
Better get to it. I watched it this week.
Get to it. I'm gonna have to do it. So episode 0, we're going to talk about that. And then as we go, we might do 2 episodes on one of our shows, depending on the episode and how it goes. But We'll do the gathering I think it's an hour and a half, right? It's pretty long, and people can see it on Amazon Prime. I think they're showing it now. They have it.
I'm not sure about that. The regular series is, but I'm sure you could find it somewhere if not. And honestly, well, okay, I won't say anything. I'll save it for the show. Go ahead, roll it.
Okay, so this is the trailer that Jason, if you're still there, I'm gonna put this up. You can use this too. I don't know. He might not like it. It's a little long. It's like 54 seconds long. Ugh. But
15 or 30.
Once I get going, I'm pretty proud of this. So everybody say nice things in the chat after we're done. Otherwise, my feelings will be hurt. All right, let's do it. All right, that wasn't so bad now, was it? Come on.
Wow.
Good music.
That's great. You feel validated?
Are you really validating me, or are you just saying that? You're just saying that to get rid of me. Yep. Is it actual real validation, or is that?
Yeah, 100%.
No, yeah. All right. Well, I'm proud of it. I learned some stuff. I'm getting better at making these things. Yeah. My opening sequence for the show is even better. Oh. But yeah, you won't see that next week. You have to wait till the Wednesday to see that. You won't do that next week. But yeah, it's going to be you got to have a new trailer. I got to do my X ending sequence though, but those are pretty easy. So yeah. So that's the trailer. I'll put it up on YouTube afterwards if you want to watch it. But yeah, that's our promo. Okay.
So share it with your friends, people that want to learn about Babylon 5, or at least hear our dumb opinions on
it. What's this? I thought you wanted transparent backgrounds. Yeah, I had to play with. Well, there's a lot of white in your background. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not doing it right. I'm not sure if we'll get hit with a strike because I used a version of that song which supposedly wasn't copyrighted. But yeah, who knows? We'll see. Yeah. All right. Yes, we should all watch 2001 again.
Excellent movie.
Yeah. All right. So that's it for the show, I think, right?
Yep.
We don't have anything else. I think we're all done.
Yep.
We can just end the show.
Absolutely. Good night, everybody. Thanks for coming.
We forgot something. We got to do the jokes. Yeah. All right. Okay. Let me see. What do I have for you today, Cam? Oh. Let me see. Oh, they're all tool related, of course.
Oh.
All right. Why did the hammer break up with the screwdriver?
I don't know. Why did the hammer break up with the screwdriver?
Because it found someone more riveting. Get it? Riveting? Riveting meaning something you like more, but also rivets because, you twist them in and stuff like that.
No, you don't.
You didn't like that one?
No, that's completely opposite. Yeah.
Oh, well.
Slap yourself.
Oh, well.
Yep. Okay. Next.
I got to do a better one. All right. Let me just, which one? No, you're not going to like that one. Oh. All right. We'll try this one. No, you won't like that one. This one. Okay. Why was the wrench always getting in trouble?
I don't know. Why was the wrench always getting in trouble?
it couldn't stop turning heads. Get it? Turn the heads on the screws or the nuts or whatever.
Yeah, I get it, but I don't know why that relates to trouble.
Because it was turning heads, right? Like,
no, that's a good thing. It's like, oh, look at me, I'm really great.
Yeah,
dumb. Okay, next.
No, that was you didn't like that one either. Oh,
nope.
All right. All right. Last one.
You're torturing our. Okay, we've lost 2 viewers now. All right.
Last one.
Yeah.
No, that one won't be good. That won't be good. You won't like that one.
I believe you.
No, you won't like that one. No. No, you won't like that one. Oh. No, you won't like that one. Jeez, these are none of these.
Somebody help me.
Oh, you won't like that one. Oh my goodness, none of these
I'm going to quit the show.
You're going to hate all of these. All right. Why do tools always carry a backup?
I don't know. Why do tools always carry a backup?
In case they need to wrench things up. Oh, the audience, the studio audience liked that one. Even if you didn't. Oh, well. Maybe next time. All right. Sorry the jokes didn't hit as well as they could. All right. Well, that's it for the show. Try to end on a high note, but I guess we can't. The jokes were really extra bad today. So keep that extra bad jokes today. Yeah, that's what we're known for. So
well, here's the good news.
We did really well, right?
You can only go up from here.
Yeah, that's what. So we did good because we're supposed to have bad jokes, right?
Yeah,
they were extra bad. Right on. All right, so that's it for the show. Do you have any last things, Cam?
No, just my continued apologies.
We appreciate that. Someone has to apologize. So next week, Babylon 5, our first one. We're going to do that on the Sunday show on the Toplofty Lounge. And then we switch to Wednesdays. So we're going to be running 2 shows. We're going to be running the regular Toplofty Lounge on Sunday nights. And only the first one will be Babylon 5. After that, it'll be other stuff, our usual thing. But every Wednesday, we'll do an hour Babylon 5. And we're going to have, we have a group so far. We've got, myself, Cam, Jason and Mindy are going to be involved. We might bring on a, now and then bring in a guest commentator. And if anybody in the chat is interested in commenting on a particular exercise or an episode, let us know and we'll get you in there for you. Want to come on, talk about that episode? You don't have to show your face. You can just, hide behind an avatar like we do. We appreciate that. Yeah, you too. Das, of course. You too. What about me? Yep. Yes, you. Of course, you're one of the ones for sure. We'll get you in there. Tell us which episode unless you want to do them all. Maybe he wants to do them all. All right, so that's our plan. And we'll see you next week for our first episode, episode 0 of Babylon 5, The Gathering, our retrospective and our discussion of that. And then every Wednesday afterwards. All right. Thanks, everybody. Good night.